After G7's big message to China, China has now hit back. China says the G7 are hyping up the economic coercion. China also says the G7 are trying to manipulate China-related issues. The G7 summit took place in Hiroshima in Japan, and there were calls being made at the summit for China to exert pressure on Russia to end the Russia-Ukraine war. And now, after the big message that the G7 gave, China has now hit back. The summit said that the G7 countries were gravely concerned about the territorial disputes in South China Sea, which means that the G7 was indirectly accusing China of coercion. Beijing, in fact, was also urged by the G7 to use its influence and to put pressure on Russia to end the invasion of Ukraine. After these statements, it is now China that has hit back. According to China, the G7 are trying to manipulate China-related issues. The statement coming from China also says the G7 are hyping up the economic coercion. So this is the G7 versus China at the moment. In fact, in its statement, China said that it expresses strong dissatisfaction and firm opposition, and they have also lodged, in fact, an official protest with China, the host country of the summit. Protest has also been lodged with all the members of the G7. In a statement, the G7 said that it is very important that there should be peace and stability across the Taiwan Strait. The statement by the G7 also said that the G7 want to make sure that there is peaceful, stable and prosperous world. My colleague Nupur Tiwari is now joining me on the phone line. Nupur, earlier it was a statement by the G7. In fact, they had urged China to use its influence over Russia to make sure that the Russia-Ukraine war ends. And now China has hit back. China is saying that G7 is trying to manipulate China-related issues.
Yes, China has all the points to say that because, China always gives their own reasons. China is always play as a selfish player, and here all the power, all the powerful countries, they are in Hiroshima and they are talking about that how to stop the war, but this is indirectly, definitely it is hitting China, because China knows that China is directly and openly supporting Russia. So China knows that this is not about Russia only, but this is about China, because the Japan's threat, Japan is getting threats only one country apart from North Korea, that is China. China knows that India is India is not going to take any decision in favor of China. So here the countries which are here, they have gathered here. All the countries, they have a bit of problems with China. So China is talking these things. It's nothing strange, nothing exceptional, because China is in fear right now because they don't know what is happening inside, what kind of decisions they are going to take, what kind of talk they are having. So they are in, constantly in fear. And what actually the spokesperson said about the G7 this time. So this is all about that expression of fear that we are here, and all the global powers, they have gathered to talk about not only Russia, but they are going to take a lot of decisions for China also. So I think, geopolitical point of view, if you think about that, this is quite normal for China to release those kind of statements, and these people also, they are quite ready to have those statements from China. And I think this is just the beginning of having those kind of statements, because now again yesterday, after so many bilateral meetings, all the decisions are going to come out. And today
Thank you, Nupur, for giving us all those details from Japan. Now our external affairs editor Geeta Mohan is joining me on the phone line. Geeta, it seems like China now has hit back and very clearly saying that the statements made by G7 have no value, and also in fact China has gone ahead and lodged an official complaint with Japan.
Well, that's right, an official protest lodged, given that the G7 meeting, Aishwarya, if you see the communique and the joint statement, very clearly spoke a lot about, without naming any country, about securing the Indo-Pacific, alternate supply chains, all that directed against China. And so China now has come out and slammed the G7 summit, saying that all it did was hyping up China-related issues. We do know that the bloc has been for a while, ever since the pandemic and even before, working towards containing China. And the reason why the Chinese have taken to lodging formal protests with the G7 nations, beginning with Japan, because it was held and hosted by Japan. And China not only condemned it or rejected it and lodged a protest, the spokesperson of the Chinese Foreign Ministry also said that they deplore and firmly oppose this that has made serious démarches to the summit's host, Japan, and that they are deploring the idea of single-handedly trying to single out China as an aggressor and as the problem. So the Chinese government now coming out and slamming the G7 summit, of which not just the 7 nations, India was also a party to the meeting as an invited guest.